Hello everyone, my name is Halvey. In this video, I'll be explaining the lore of the continent of Valentia. Valentia is the continent that Fire Emblem Gaiden and its remake Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia take place upon. It is located in the same world as the continents of Arcanea and Yggdrasil. Valentia is situated to the west of Arcanea, and it is unknown what direction Yggdrasil is in. Valentia is split into two countries. The northern country, Rigel, was founded by the Warfather Duma, and the southern nation, Zofia, was founded by the Earth Mother Milla. Rigel boasts a powerful military, and its people highly value strength. However, this has led their hearts to grow cold. Rigel has very harsh lands consisting of rugged mountains, swamps, and cold snowy regions. Rigel's terrible terrain makes farming difficult, and its people are very close to starving. Zofia's lands were blessed by Milla, allowing her people to live happy and free of hardships. However, her gifts have spoiled the Zofians, and it was only a matter of time before they sank into depravity. Valentia also has a calendar system. The sage Matthias had knowledge of the celestial body's motions and introduced a calendar system which follows a seasonal division divided between Philostem, Avestem, Pegastem, and Wormstem. Duma and Milla are both divine dragons who were originally from Arcanea, serving the divine dragon ruler Naga. Duma protected Naga with his military might and was called the King's Shield. Milla blessed the land with her magic and was called the King's Grail. Eventually, Duma attacked the human city of Thebes and destroyed it. Naga wanted to punish Duma for this act, and they went to war, with Milla siding with Duma. And after 9 days of battle, Duma and Milla were forced to surrender. Naga exiled them, but before they left, gave them the falchion or King's Fang, which was forged from one of her fangs. After several days of traveling across the ocean, Duma and Milla settled upon the lands of Valentia and built their own civilization. The two eventually came into a dispute over how their people should be led. Duma believed that people should strive for power and live in hardship, while Milla believed that people should live in peace and pleasure and have everything provided for them. This dispute turned violent and ended with Duma and Milla forming a pact known as the Divine Accord. They agreed to split Valentia in two, with Duma ruling over the north and Milla ruling over the south, and vowed never to cross into each other's domain. For a couple thousand years, the era of gods continued, and the Duma and Milla faith were born. Temples were constructed as central places of worship, and the faith spread from there. During this time, a pirate nation was formed around a single unknown leader. These pirates threatened the Valentian mainland, as well as Arcanea's western coast, and their presence steadily grew. Duma and Milla helped the people of Valentia fight back against the pirates. Zofia and Rigel, the two heroes who led the charge against the pirate nation, were chosen to enter a blood pact with Milla and Duma respectively. Milla bestowed the Ragnarok spell to Zofia, while Duma bestowed the falchion to Rigel. The pirates were defeated, and after the war, the hero Rigel returned the falchion to Duma Temple and founded the Rigel Empire in Valentia's north, and the hero Zofia founded and built the kingdom of Zofia in the southern lands. The two countries shared a harmonious relationship and built the sluice gate together, and by operating the sluice gate, each country's breadbasket became more fertile, with Rigel's side reaping the most benefits. King Rigel gave Queen Zofia the royal sword as a symbol of friendship, but also during this time, Duma slowly began to lose his sanity, and when the dragonkin lose their sanity, their desires increase tenfold, and their self-control slips away. This is the reason why much later Duma will gather villainous people full of desires like Jeddah and Nui Baba. Years later, during the reign of Lima II of Zofia and Rigel III of Rigel, Mycen rose to fame as a Rigelian knight. He was regarded as an outstanding hero, and he was close friends with Rudolf and Noma. So then when trouble arose within Zofia's political circle, by the request of Lima II, Mycen sortied Rigelian troops into Zofia and helped Lima II immensely, and stability returned to the government. For his accomplishments, Mycen was praised and offered to stay in Zofia and become a general. Mycen accepted the offer. Several years later, Rigel III appointed Rudolf as his successor. Rudolf was a distant relative of Emperor Rigel and was far down the line of succession. But because he bore Duma's brand and was capable of wielding the falchion, he was picked as Rigel III's successor. Back during the founding of Rigel, Duma made it so that strong brand bearers will have priority to the throne. Then, following Rudolf's ascension, he met with Duma and sensed his descent into madness. It was believed that Duma had already lost half of his remaining sanity and was obsessed with conquering the entire world. Nonetheless, Rudolf pledged conquest of Valentia to Duma, but he did not specify the time of the invasion. Instead, he promised to prepare for war, and to prove it, he bolstered Rigel's military. A few years later, elsewhere in Zofia, King Lima III died and was succeeded by his heir, Lima IV. Lima IV was young and arrogant and flexed his power and began a reign of tyranny, and the people did not care much for him. Shortly after, an assassination plot against Lima IV was exposed, and Desaix, who claimed to have prevented the plot, gained Lima's favor and joined the government. Then Lima forced Librica, a shrine maiden in service to the Temple of Mila, to become his queen. Mycen tried to reason with Lima multiple times, but he was stopped by Desaix at every turn, and slowly Mycen was distanced from the royal family and Zofia Castle. The people were not pleased with everything that was happening, but because Zofia is a bountiful land, they did not care as long as they could live in peace, and this is one of the reasons why Desaix's political rise went unchallenged, and eventually Desaix became the one pulling all of the strings in Zofia's affairs, with Lima as his puppet. Desaix was also responsible for many deaths within the royal family, and he also stripped Mycen of his position as general and was exiled from the castle. Meanwhile, in Rigel, Rudolf met with Halcyon, the high priest of the Duma faithful. Halcyon received a prophecy foretelling the beginning of Valentia's spiral into destruction. Only two brand bearers, one born in Zofia and another in Rigel, hold the power to free the world from the mad god's control. Among the Duma faithful, Halcyon was one of the few who was distressed about Duma's desire to conquer Valentia. Jeddah, another of the Duma faithful, was full of evil desires that aligned with Duma's, and Jeddah sacrificed his daughters, Marla and Hestia, to Duma and quickly gained his favor. This allowed Jeddah to chase Halcyon out and into the Lost Treescape and take control over all of the Duma faithful and transform it into an evil group of fanatics. Soon the brand bearers Alm and Celica were born. Rudolf discovered the brand on his son Alm and heard reports that a Zophian princess was born with the brand. Rudolf realized that Halcyon's prophecy was in motion, so he secretly met with his old friend Mycen. He left Alm in Mycen's care, and Mycen took Alm to Ram village in Zofia and raised him as his own grandson. Celica's mother, Librica, died shortly after giving birth, which sent Lima into a deep depression, and his philandering got even worse, and Zofia's inner corruption deepened. This allowed Desaix to scheme and burn down the royal villa that Celica was living in. Thankfully, Mycen was able to come to her rescue and brought her back to Ram village, where she first met Alm. Conrad, Celica's older half-brother, was also caught in the fire, but he was able to escape and fled to the Lost Treescape under the care of Halcyon. The other residents of the royal villa were killed by Desaix's assassins. Alm and Celica were very happy living together until the fateful day that Slade, one of Desaix's subordinates, encountered Celica near Ram village and realized who she really was. Mycen forced Slade to retreat, but since Celica's location was now exposed, she was transported away from Ram village by Mycen and across the sea to Noma's priory. In the following years, Rigel suffered through many poor harvests. Mila started to show signs of losing her sanity. Alm was taught swordsmanship by Mycen, and Celica served as a priestess at the priory. As the poor harvest persisted, Rigel's food stockpile ran out. Rigel requested aid from Zofia, and Lima shrugged them off. This provoked Rudolf to make the decision to invade Zofia. Wielding falchion, Rudolf charged into the Temple of Mila and sealed Mila, fulfilling his pledge to Duma to slay the gods. Mila was sealed away to protect her from degenerating. This was Duma's original desire, to slay the gods when they start to show signs of degeneration, though as Duma began to lose his sanity, that wish was distorted and replaced with the desire to slay only Milla and wanting dominion over Valentia. Milla being slain by the hands of man meant that the divine accord was broken and is what caused terrors to materialize all over the continent. Milla's corpse was then taken to Duma Temple with Falchion still in it, and with her being sealed, Zofia's land started to wither. This marked the beginning of the war between Rigel and Zofia. Dessae was able to meet with the Rigelian army and negotiate a ceasefire. Rigel surrendered the war with the conditions that Zofia paid them a huge compensation sum and Dessae be appointed as Zofia's chancellor. Dessae collected wealth and food from the citizens in the name of compensating Rigel, and heavy taxes were imposed. Then Dessae seized Zofia by assassinating King Lima and the rest of the royal family. Villages became playgrounds for Dessae's thieving soldiers and bandits. Zofia is now in chaos and its people suffer, but all hope was not lost as Clive and many other Zofian knights and nobility established the Deliverance in an act of rebellion against Dessae. Unfortunately, their small forces could not match the strength of Dessae's army and were forced to flee from Zofia Castle and hide. Lucas from the Deliverance makes his way to Ram Village, trying to find and recruit Mycen. He cannot find Mycen, but recruits Alm and some other villagers instead. Alm and the others fight their way to meet Clive at the Deliverance hideout. Clive, under the notion that Alm is Mycen's grandson, invites Alm to lead the Deliverance. Alm accepts the offer and leads the Deliverance to drive away Dessae and retake Zofia Castle. Just after that, Celica departs from the priory on Novus, wanting to discover the truth behind Milla's disappearance. She gathers many allies until she reaches Zofia Castle and reunites with Alm. They get into a little argument over whether war with Rigel is really necessary. Celica leaves the castle and continues her journey to the Milla Temple. Along the way, she recruits more allies and defeats the brigand king Greeth at Greeth Citadel. Celica frees a priestess of Milla who knew Celica's mother. The priestess will later give Celica a circlet that proves her identity as Princess of Zofia. Finally, Celica arrives at the Temple of Milla and defeats the Duma faithful guarding it. Celica learns of what happened to Milla, and she cannot progress any further unless the floodgate at the sluice gate on the other side of the continent is opened at the same time she opens the floodgate at the temple. But Alm is on the case, as he is leading the Deliverance to fight Rigel and force them out of Zofia. Alm makes his way to Dessae's fortress and kills Dessae, and finally arrives at the sluice gate, where he defeats the Duma faithful guarding it. He opens the floodgate and now both Alm and Celica can enter Rigel. Celica fights and defeats many of the Duma faithful in the swamplands of Rigel. She is reunited with Conrad and enters the Lost Treescape and meets with Halcyon. After that, she makes her way to the top of Duma Tower, where Jeddah banishes her companions to the catacombs and leaves her alone to watch helplessly as Alm suffers. Alm has been invading Rigel and defeating many of Rigel's strongest fighters. He finally confronts Emperor Rudolf and cuts him down. Rudolf reveals Alm's true heritage and entrusts him to slay Duma. In Rigel Castle, Mycen explains more of Rudolf's plan to Alm and encourages him to rescue Celica and defeat Duma. In Duma Temple, Alm finds the falchion still stuck in Milla's skull. He is attacked by Celica, who has been transformed into a witch after Jeddah sacrificed her soul to Duma. Under Milla's guidance, Alm takes falchion and kills Celica, and Milla uses her powers to revive Celica and free her from Duma's influence. Now with their armies' combined might, Alm and Celica kill Jeddah, and Alm uses the falchion to put an end to Duma. With the last of their powers, Duma and Milla restored Valentia's dying land before entering an eternal slumber. Alm and Celica eventually married and united Valentia into a single nation, with Alm as its first king and Celica as its first queen. Twin trees grew from where Duma and Milla's hearts were buried. These trees intertwined, eventually becoming a single massive tree that later became known as the Milla tree. And with all that said, this is the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.